sometimes like he been telling you, no, the people not for you. No, you need to move around from this, or no, you probably need to find another job. But a lot of times things have to get so bad, or they just have to be so disruptive and like just irritating our peace for us to move and do the things, So, all right. Hello, hello, hello. We are back again with Impact in Action. This is week two, session number two of our 10-week series from the building. The building before the breakthrough. And so we are following the ladies who are in a community, their friends, they all have their own particular journeys. And we have been talking about Maria's journey. And Maria's journey is significant because on the outside, it looks like she has everything together. She has the husband, she has the kids, she's able to work on her business, all of the things. But, life is happening and she is melting at the seams. And it's something she prayed for, but the answer does not look like what it is that she thought it should have looked like. So we are going to continue without further ado. And what if things are not falling apart, but falling into alignment? And so last video, and you guys remember to subscribe, hit the notification bell so when we have content, you guys get that notification that we have content. Again, this is all about you. This is the know how and how to of entrepreneurship development. And so we're not just teaching you how to start a business, how to do a website, but we are also going over how do I do this with my life, with the life that I have, right? And so, again, let's get back to Maria. So, with Maria, again, she, her husband was laid off, and she was an entrepreneur, but it was early in her entrepreneur stage, so she didn't have the dough wasn't rolling in yet. And so she asked for order, and all of the things started happening. And so after the layoff, they lost a car, they had to move in with family, and just everything was like, what are we doing? Right? Husband had unemployment, but unemployment, ran out. And instead of having what seemed like comfort, she got alignment, because in all of the moving and all of the shaking, um, they found conversation with each other. So instead of them having this big cozy home where everyone had, their own room and things of that nature, they had to move in with family. But in moving in with family, they were closer. So they were able to then learn each other's behaviors, learn each other's intentions, instead of everyone being in their own room. This person got their own thing going on, this person got their own thing going on. Instead of four different TVs, they had one. And so conversation, just normal people stuff starts to happen. That's why you guys, when we sometimes you hear about those families that go on a trip and they take their kids phones and things, and end up taking their kids phones and things, then their kids start to actually play together. They actually go outside, what I'm saying? They actually, tell stories. Remember we were young and we used to bounce off each other with the stories, and like, oh, my story is better. Oh, my story is better. And then y'all are like, before you know it, you just created some whole nother different world. They start being people again to each other, because all of the luxuries of life sometimes all of the luxuries of life sometimes are distractions. And that's just honest. Sometimes all of the luxuries of life are distractions. And so what look like disruption is often God establishing order. So everything, because 9 times out of 10, we're not going to do it ourselves. 9 times out of 10, we ask and we're like, oh, yeah, God, I'm with this. I'm going to do it. But if God's told you to, and then sometimes, like, he been telling you, no, the people not for you. No, you need to move around from this, or no, you probably need to find another job. But a lot of times things have to get so bad, or they just have to be so disruptive and, like, just irritating our peace for us to move and do the things. So if it, and it's a lot of people that are extremely obedient. I've known people who have left a bigger house to go to a smaller house just because God told them to. But a lot of the times, we don't. If God say, "Oh, I need you to downgrade," from a two-story, four-bedroom house to a um a one-bedroom apartment, are you gonna actually do it unless your finances are forcing you to do it? Normally 9 times out of 10, no. So, and that's just kind of, how things go, um a lot of the times. And so, again, from the layoff to losing the car to the move, all of the uncertainty, alignment was built in their household. And God likes to build on a firm foundation. That's just how he does things. And so, what if the answer to your prayer disrupts your plan? Maria prayed for growth, stability, and divine order, but the answer came through change, and change exposed what no longer carried the next season. So it might have worked for a season, maybe, just maybe, and just in expanding, because I look at my good decisions and my bad decisions. I always look at God. And um I've told y'all the story before about the Cadillac that I had, and it was a bad decision. It was a totally bad decision. Well, let me talk about the mindset shift. So in it, um I feel that I needed to know that I deserve something good, and not just deserving something good, but to see what came after, right? Because I got so much flack for that dang on Cadillac. I mean, and I had never been criticized so much for something that I had to pay the bill on. People came for me about me having a Cadillac. And it's like, why are y'all coming for me? And I haven't asked none of y'all to pay my bill. And it was like, whenever it would break down or go into the shop, it's like people got satisfaction out of that. And so I felt like I needed to see that. And I felt like I needed to experience that, but I also needed to experience the mindset that I had, that it added something to me, who I was as a person, when that was just something material, right? And so all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord. So going back to the example with Maria, even though they might have been in a large house, maybe they needed to know that they could afford a large house. Maybe that was something that they needed to be in to get that first initial, hey, we can do this, because at first they didn't feel like they could. But, they afforded it. Yeah, you can. We want to stop and say thank you for watching. Becoming Her is your entrepreneurship development community, giving emerging entrepreneurs the know how and practical how to for building with confidence. Since you're here, we know you're ready for your next step. So visit our website, join your tribe, and claim your free resources. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. And you can shop the merch, schedule your next step session, support the mission, and share this with another woman ready to build. Let's keep becoming together. Yeah, you can afford it. You lived here, you know what it's like. So, when you're going on the journey, what your goals are, what you're trying to get to. But during this time, I have to take this house away from you so that I can realign your family, so that your family can live together harmoniously. And everyone is not in this big house separated, but they know that the house is just the house and not each other's dungeon corners or whatever the case may be, right? Because the one kid is in the one room, the other kid is in the other room, the one person's in the living room, the other person's at the room, and we're not really talking to each other. We're just, hey, how you doing? And we love each other, right? Love is always there. We're family, but we're, hitting and missing, coming and going. And so in order to realign the focus, that had to be stripped away, right? And so again, seek ye first the kingdom of God. And I told y'all before, like, I'm not preaching to y'all, but this is what it is. We're building business God's way. And we'll talk about why at another time. But, you know, this is just what it is, right? And so, um, what the breakdown revealed that systems were needed. God was rebuilding rhythms, routine, and practical support. Because in this, what Maria developed is, okay, we need to have a family meeting. We need to meet. We need to talk to each other. We need to talk to each other about our goals, what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need to be on one accord. What's going on in your lives? What's on the kids' mind? Things of that nature. Are we all on one accord, right? And so in that, so that this can never happen again. Because even though we go through falls, we don't want to go through falls over and over and over again, right? We want, and sometimes, cycles happen, things of that nature, but that's a whole nother topic. But in this, we don't want to go through this again, so we need to put some things in place. A family meeting is one of the things that we put in place. One of the rhythms that we put in place is making sure that before we step out in the morning, we talk to each other. Hey, how is your morning going? Did you sleep okay last night? And actually having that conversation rather than, oh, it's time for school, brush teeth, wash face, woo, 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 woo. And it's like everybody, frantic, all of the things in the morning to get out the door rather than stopping to see, are we okay? What needs to happen, right? Right, because that leads me to boundaries. What could not protect the next season had to be strengthened. Boundaries. Boundaries with people, boundaries with children. When mommy is in her room, it's taking time for mommy. If it's not an emergency, now if it's an emergency, of course. If it's something that you really got going on, of course. But you can't just come in here and bother mommy with anything because mommy has time for herself. Mommy needs to make sure that she's okay in order to make sure that you guys are okay, right? And so boundaries were needed for Maria and her household communication. Hard seasons made honesty, teamwork, and clarity necessary. So that goes back to that family meeting, and not even just family meeting, but husband and wife. You know, how does this actually feel? How does this make you feel? Do you feel like this or do you feel like that? Right. And then sometimes putting you to the side to understand the other person, even though the person is complaining about you, not being defensive and just saying, okay, how is this actually impacting my partner? Let me see it from my partner's perspective rather than thinking, hey, that's not my intention. That's not what I'm trying to do. You a liar, duh, 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 all of the things, right? And so, times of trouble, make those honest conversations come alive, because sometimes it's like either we gonna do this or we not. But if we gonna do this, we need to figure something out, okay? Because what's happening right now is not working. And then order. What felt like disruption is often God establishing alignment. And so breakdown revealed what the old structure could not carry. So, and it's all for a purpose. All things work together for the good of those who love the Lord. So God began rebuilding what the next season would require. Because do you know? So going back to the Cadillac, right? Sometimes if you've been in struggle so long, you don't realize that the real warfare is when you start doing good. That's when the real warfare comes. When you're like struggling, your warfare is with yourself and with your perspective of yourself and all of the things, right? But people normally leave you alone when you're struggling because they just, you know, especially when you need some stuff from them and stuff like that, because you're a resource drain, and they normally leave you alone. That's when you normally find out who your friends are, right? But when you are successful, that's when opportunists come out. That's when the people that you thought were your friends that actually weren't your friends start to show that maybe there's a little silent competition there. That's when, again, when it came to the cat, like, I had never caught so much slack over a bill that I did not ask nobody else to pay. Like, why are you criticizing me? You know what I'm saying? But in which, some of it was wise counsel, but you got to use discernment, right? And so all of the things, right, are all of the things. So we're out of time today. That's our 15 minutes, but we will finish up with Maria's story tomorrow. Again, I am so excited for you guys. I'm excited to witness your journey, whether it be, hey, I posted my first video, to, hey, I got my first 10 subscribers, to, hey, I got a client coming in. We're here for it all. And so this is for you, about you, the know-how and the how-to of entrepreneurship development. If it's helping you, please like, comment, and subscribe, and share it with somebody that you know is trying to go on their journey too, because we're in this together. All right, talk to you next time. Bye.